Bro, this scene is it's too good. It's too good, man. Like, we gotta rewind this. Like, yo, you gotta see it, man. It's just too good. This man comes in, flies in, and kicks her in the face. Like, bro. It's too good. Oh my goodness. I did not expect Shangri-La Frontier to be as good as it is, and boy oh boy, they did not need to go as hard as they did for this first episode, but they did. And you know what, I take that back, they kind of did, because if they didn't go as hard as they did with this first episode, I don't think as many people would be talking about it, because I didn't really even know this was coming out today. I want to keep it real here. I was probably going to skip this show, but then I saw a lot of people talking about it. I was like, okay, let me check this out. And just, this is the first minute. Like, this whole sequence here is just in the first minute, and I'm just like, okay, this is pretty good. This is good. And so, let's get right into it, okay? First things first, I'm gonna say, if you like, let's say, fantasy stories, you like, stories that, have a character go into a game world, you're probably gonna enjoy this. And I do want to make sure I say this as well. This isn't a trashy story. Like, I know that when we think of, like, fantasy stories, like, going into a VR game or whatever, there's a lot of things that usually associated with it's a dumpster, or it's trash, trash is sekai or whatever, but, this is not that series. I'm gonna be honest with you, this is very high quality. Like, this is a very high quality series, especially from what I can see from the first episode. Now, for clarification, I am anime only. I don't know how the original source is. I don't know if this episode properly adapts things. I have no idea. I've heard a lot of compliments to this first episode, though, so I am assuming it's doing very well. But, once again, I'm anime only. I don't know what to expect. I don't know what is going to happen with the story, if it's going to take a U-turn or whatever. But I will say that the first episode legitimately caught me by surprise. The dark horse of the season, I'm just going to say it right now, and I dare say that if this continues to be as good as it is, it might become one of the best anime of this year. Easily. If it continues doing what it did. It was a good first episode, like straight gas. But, let's talk about it. So, the story of Shangri-La Frontier, hopefully I said that right, it is a very unique, but also generic story. And hear me out, okay? This first episode perfectly describes what I usually talk about when it comes to a very cliche starting, but it's how it's used if it's good or not. And I think that this first episode perfectly, like, just embodies that. It's kind of like, when it comes to making food. Like, someone can make, eggs, okay? Eggs and bacon. And, you have someone that is not a good chef, someone that's just, like, their first time ever cooking it, and then you have someone that has been cooking for, like, 30 years. And clearly the chef that's been cooking for 30 years is going to be better at cooking eggs and bacon, okay? Let's be honest here. It's a simple comparison. Basically, you can have the same starting point, but there can be radically big differences between them, depending on the author or the writer. And that's what I'm getting at here, is that the story's template, I'm going to describe it in the most generic and boring way, and then I'm going to dive into why it's good, okay? It is about a guy that plays trashy games, and then eventually after playing so many trashy games and wins these VR trashy games, he discovers a game that's basically godlike. He goes in there and he starts to enjoy the world. That's literally the synopsis, if I wanted to make it as mundane and generic as possible. When you first hear that, it's like, oh, this sounds like every other traditional show I've seen in the past. But, once again, this is where the story converges. Or it has differences, I guess. Basically, the main character in the world, you could tell whoever wrote this. Like, the writer of this. I'm not talking about, like, the anime. I'm just talking about the author. Whoever wrote this is a huge fan of gaming. I'm not talking about someone that plays games on the side just randomly here and there. I'm talking about a person that spends hundreds upon hundreds or even thousands of hours in just one single game. It's very clear by just the way this first episode is written that there is a lot of things that this author knows about gaming. He knows about gaming culture, knows what people think of gaming culture, knows what people expect and don't expect. Everything about this felt like kind of like a nod to that culture, but also kind of a diss as well at some aspects within the gaming culture as well. I really like this first episode because, like, the starting point of this show is pretty much about our main character. He goes goes, and goes to game stores and all that, or this main game store, and he picks out, like, video games. Like, he goes and picks out the most trashy game that people don't like, or they drop in a few hours or 30 minutes, whatever, because either they're a buggy mess, the hitboxes are messed up, or maybe it feels like a glorified early access game, even though it's sold at full price or whatever. He likes to go after these trashy games and play them and beat them just to challenge himself, so to speak, because he likes to dumpster dive, kind of how many of us like the dumpster dive with anime, and we go through the worst anime just because we want to see how bad it can really get. And so he does that, and he eventually, after dumpster diving in so many different games and all that, he's like, I guess it's finally time to play a game that, is actually godlike. And the commentary on that is very fascinating, because it reminds me of the commentary that happened in these past few months with Baldur's Gate. If anyone is a gamer and, kind of keeps up with gaming information, probably has heard about Baldur's Gate 3, and kind of what kind of controversy and drama it caused in the gaming community. For instance, like, Baldur's Gate, it promised things, it delivered what it promised, and it wasn't anything else. They said they weren't going to do microtransactions, they said that they were just going to release a product, and they did release that product, and it wasn't something that was about, like, nothing but lies, etc., and it was a good game. And a lot of game companies got very upset with that and basically said, you're making us look bad. That's pretty much what they said. Because nowadays, let's be honest, if you play games, most games, especially AAA companies, when they release a game, it's pretty much early access. They give you like 20% of the game, and 80% of the other content is just microtransactions or DLCs, whatever. For instance, even coloring your character now with different color schemes now costs you like $5 here and there. So it's just like, we have been kind of, I guess, adjusted to gaming being like it is nowadays in these past few decades, or just past decade. And, when a game actually does the bare minimum that a game technically should do and delivers a product, it blows everybody's minds. And, this very episode does that exact same thing. Like, when he gets into the world, he starts talking about the character creator and how there's just so many options, so many ways he could change the hair color, the items, sell his items, to even how the world feels in the movement, to the level up system, to the drop rates. It's the bare minimum that technically games should do. But he was overjoyed and blown away by this godlike game, because we're just so used to absolute trash within the game industry. Like I said, I like the commentary on this, and once again, it's very generic if you're looking at it and you just want to look at the synopsis, but it's very obvious by the way the author wrote this series that he loves games and was wanting to comment on that. He was wanting to comment on just how the ecosystem of gaming is nowadays. So, I don't know, I love that. And I also love the little attention to detail stuff here with, like, the character creator, how it can, like, really just shape you in your entire playthrough. Stuff like this really goes a long way, and I love the time that actually is spent in this character creator for this first episode, because we get to see, like, the different classes, we get to see the different origin points, how you could sell your armor. Basically our MC here, he is doing a naked Dark Souls soul level 1 run. That's pretty much what I got from his run. So it's very obvious that the author as well loves probably a Souls game. I got that apparent feeling, because having his character just go completely nude pretty much with just a weapon, it just sounds like a Dark Souls player. Someone doing a challenge run, Souls level 1, naked run with a club. That's exactly what it looks like to me. And there's little things like that. Like, getting back to the beginning of the episode, you have this whole female character that gets, a foot to the face, as I showed, and basically the sequence of events, he talks about how this character that, was this female character, she caused so many problems. Basically, she was someone that was your companion throughout the story, and she would constantly get people killed, your friends killed, etc., but she would never face repercussions. The writing of the game never had her face any repercussions. Anytime you tried to do something, the game would either game over, or you'd just be stuck until you finally agree with what she's doing. It just hard locked you down a path to accept who she is, and he absolutely hated that. And so when he finally had a chance to be able to do what he did here, he took it. And the reason how he was even capable of this is thanks to a bug. Basically, when the ending credits play and all that, and after you defeat the Demon Lord, you're able to do anything you want to this character, and so he did just that, and it was basically what he said, his reward for beating this game. Those 3 minutes of absolute pleasure of getting back at a character that just caused him so much hell throughout the playthrough, and I feel like this is a nod to characters that just really get on people's nerves within gaming. I think of the adoring fan from Elder Scrolls, or I think of, as of recent, getting back to the Baldur's Gate stuff, is, Lae'zel. I'm gonna be honest with you, I know people might like Lae'zel and all that, but as soon as I got the chance, I threw her off a cliff, or whatever. I threw her off a cliff, and that was that. Like, gone. I just did not like her attitude. I didn't like how she called my nose really disgusting, and so off the cliff in Baldur's Gate. But back on topic. I know I'm gonna get some comments about that one. I do think that this story of this series, as you could clearly tell, it has a lot of depth to it. Once again, if you're wanting to summarize it, it seems generic, but it's not. And the animators as well, and the team that worked on this episode clearly knew what product they have, and they have love for this. They really do have love for this show. I felt it, because there's so many little sequences here and there that just... it didn't need that level of attention to detail, because, like, you have scenes where a character's just scrolling through the forums, he's reading things about stuff and all that, and these little movements here and there with the character art and animation is just so over the top. It didn't need to be that good, but it was. And, I mean, you even have action sequences as well, like where the character's fighting like a goblin here. The action sequences look just so beautiful, and I love that. I love the attention to detail and stuff, too, talking about weapon durability and all that. There's so much good stuff here. So, I think I made it kind of clear. If you want a good show to watch this anime season, I really think you should check out, Shangri-La Frontier. Hopefully I didn't butcher that name. First episode's great. It's a really good fantasy story. I really am impressed. I want to definitely continue this show. I am surprised with how a character that's basically doing a naked Dark Souls Soul Level 1 build caught my attention so well. I mean, with a bird mask on. So, it's like that guy, when you play, like, Elden Ring or something, and someone puts on a weird, albernock, or whatever they're called, those weird, like, alien head creatures. They put on that helmet in Elden Ring. It kind of reminds me of that. But okay, I'll leave it at that, though. I want to talk, comment on this and talk about this show. Kind of, shout it out. It's really good. I fully recommend this show. But if you enjoyed my video, please subscribe, leave a like. It does help me out a lot. I greatly appreciate it. With that, be safe, stay healthy. Chibi out.